when I started, I didn't have a lot of people around me like haters or like, why can't you just be normal? Most people really didn't care. There was like, okay, yeah, whatever, good luck, Giannis.
Mhm.
That type of attitude, and it's very common. It's very normal. It's just I think our kind of monkey brain takes over, and they feel like,
Mhm.
hey, we are in our little circle, and you are kind of starting to play against our little rules, and then everybody is just like, oh, why can't you be normal? Let's keep our circle safe and safe and wonderful as it is. People in general, we are kind of not prone to change. Usually we resist it. It's not our like default way of operating. But few things I could say here that I can like recall from my own journey, as most people didn't care. And of course I wasn't in like, okay, you are not supporting my dream, like get out of my life. Hey, you support me, come in. It's family and friends and you love them, and you don't really like pick them. But what I did was I was really obsessed with audiobooks and podcasts and interviews. And those were kind of my indirect mentors. For like 3 years, I think I stopped listening to music, and like on my commutes to work or doing dishes at home, I just really listened to stories. And that was extremely helpful to kind of keep me going and giving me that motivation to keep going. And it was like all those audiobooks and podcasts were like, you're the average of 5 people you most surround yourself with. And I surrounded myself so much with that input from those audiobooks and podcasts that it kind of, I think, affected me in some sense. So if you don't have like a supportive environment, you can really get these indirect mentors from from podcasts and audiobooks. And I think they do help.
What's the go-to podcast that you would recommend for somebody who's on this path? What's the first one they need to start with?
They really have changed over time. I've of course like a good classic is like the Tim Ferriss show, but usually I check like the interviews. Hey, I'm interested in this person, and I listen to that interview. So it's more like that relationship with that podcast. But maybe at the beginning I listen to it more. I really recently I have discovered, as I'm kind of creating my own book, I really enjoyed David Perel's How I Write, where basically he
Okay.
interviews famous authors and people, and mostly the whole conversation is tailored to like writing process and stuff, which is very interesting to see. I don't know if you're big in creator economy. Jay Klaus has this creative elements. I think that's a good one. There's a bunch of it, but usually when people ask me for like podcast advice or book advice, I usually give different answers to different people because it depends on where they are in life or what problems they try to solve. So that's very contextual, but those are my picks. I like My First Million as well. That's most like a business
Mm,
podcast, but
yeah.
there's like just two friends just talking and chatting business, and it's like a fun conversation. And sometimes you get some interesting, just random ideas there. That's good one as well.
What's one book you would recommend when it comes to authenticity?
Authenticity. Nobody have asked me really, and I haven't thought about it. Like the first thing that came to mind, I know I listened to this book and I really loved it. I recall maybe some few things from it, but it was like from Elizabeth Gilbert, The Big Magic. I think that's
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
awesome. I think Austin Kleon is really good with his like trilogy of Still Like an Artist and Show Your Work and Keep Going. Those are great. I really enjoy work by Derek Sivers. I think the one the book that I have recommended the most is Anything You Want by Derek Sivers. It's just short little stories and it's extremely short. You can like read it in 1.5 hours. Yeah, that's a good one. I think like the classic. It's super outdated in some sense, but the 4 Hour Work Week was the book that kind of put me on the path and made me realize that holy Ash, like Giannis, you don't know anything. There is so
There's
much to
more to
learn.
life.
Yeah. It really sent me on a new dimension I didn't know exist, and kind of knocked out my mid 20 year old confidence that I know stuff and I understand life. So that was a good one as well.